Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you guys how to create a table from scratch, okay? And we'll have a different data in this one from the last video, so you won't get too bored. And we'll kind of go from there. So first thing we need to do is find an area that we want to put the table into, and I'm just going to go to here, all right? I'll go ahead and hit the enter key and get a spot opened up there for us. Maybe scroll down just a little bit there, all right? So then what we'll do is we'll go back into the Insert tab. We'll go to Table, and we've got basically two ways of doing this. We can either kind of hover over this grid and come up with the size that we need. But the problem with this one, the only problem with this one, is that I can't get it to give me as many cells as I need, rows and columns. So instead of doing it this way, and this way, again, I mean, see how easy it is. You just hover, find the one that you want, and there's your table. So instead of doing it that way, what I'm going to do instead is we're going to go to Insert, go back to Table, and we're going to tell it that we want to insert a table. And that way we get a new window or a little dialog box that pops up, and then we kind of fill it in with what we need. Now I've kind of sketched out on paper, the dimensions of this thing, and and all the stuff that I want to put in, and how big it needs to be and so forth. So what I've determined is I'm going to need about 15 columns. All right, so I'm going to bring this up to 15. I can type in the number or just use the arrows to do it. And as far as the rows go, I'm going to need about maybe 9 rows. I'll bring this thing up to 9. Oop. And that's it. Everything else is going to be good. You can, if you want to, save these dimensions by saying remember these dimensions for new tables, and therefore then you won't have to specify the dimensions the next time that you build a table, because they'll already be in place for you, and then all you have to do is just hit OK. So, but we're not going to do that. Anyway, so what we'll do then is go ahead and hit OK, and there it is. Now in this particular table, we're going to actually have a title on it. On our last one that we did, this one here, we didn't really have a title. It was just kind of given, whatever we were kind of discussing in the document itself. People assumed what this was here. We maybe have some text up here that would have said that. But this time around, we're actually going to put a title on it. So what we're going to do, though, is the title is going to span the entire width of the table, and it's also going to be perfectly centered. Now, the best way of doing that would be to kind of select this whole range just like this, just like that. And then what we'll do is we're going to go into the Layout tab, and we're going to tell it that we want to merge the cells. We're going to make that one big cell. So in here, we've got the merge cells. We can click onto that, and there it goes. All right, so just one big cell. Now, what we're also going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the title in here, and the title is going to be Traffic Patterns, and then we'll put in here Major Airports, just like that. Now you're going to notice that the font that we're getting is the default font of the document, which is that papyrus font. Not any big deal. We can always change that later on if we wanted to, but for now, all I really want to do is get that in there, and then go back to the layout and tell it that I want to center this between the left and right margin there, or cell, whatever, and also between the top and bottom. So I'm going to click on this guy here, and then what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and make this just a little bit taller and get that, see? All right, now right below that, we're in the second row here, we're going to be putting in the monthly labels, like the January, February, March. We're going to do this all the way out to December, and also then put a total column there as well. So we're going to go to this cell right here. I'm going to type in JAN, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit my tab key and then type in the rest. So I'm going to save you the misery of watching me type. And boom, with the magic of video, there they all are. Now you can see it's a little messed up here, mainly because the text is rather big, and we're using that a little bit different font there and everything. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select. We'll just start with this cell right here. And I'm going to select all the way like that. Another way of doing this too, if you get all the cells selected, you can actually get like right, it can be a little bit, this actually is kind of hard to do it there. I'll just do it like this. But anyway, we're going to select the whole range there, and then I'm going to go back into the Home tab and tell it that I want to go with the Arial font, and I'm also going to make it just a little bit smaller. Oop, wrong way. No, there's the right way. Okay, so there's a little bit about like that. Now it still looks pretty bad, but here's what I want to show you. This is actually pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down a little bit, get a little bit more room there, and then we can always change that later on. What I want to do is I want to turn the text to go completely vertical, okay? So it'll read like from the bottom JAN going up. Now to do that, what we do is we're going to select this whole range here, just like that. Then we're going to go back into layout, and we've got something here called the text direction. So we click onto that, and there they go. Now I did that, hit it again, it does that. See, hit it again, it goes back to where it was. So I'm either going that way or that way. I think that's a better way of doing it. So there's the first thing, all right? Now the next thing is that we could make it centered between the top and bottom. And if we do that, that's going to look kind of like that. And that's not too bad. The other way of doing it would be to make it kind of line up on the bottom like that. Because the problem that we have here, this is what we call proportional font, like where every letter has its own width. So therefore, even though they're all 3 characters for the most part, they're going to be longer in some cases or taller in some cases, because like the letter M might be wider than the letter I and stuff like that, or whatever we've got in here, but it's just slightly off. My only little problem is I've got the word total, which is like 5 characters, but what I could actually do is go in there and just delete a couple of them and just leave it as TOT. Might look kind of goofy, but either that or I could leave it with the 5 letters and shrink the font. Maybe I'll try that. Let's see what that looks like. So we'll type that back in there, and I can go back here and select that like that, and then go back to my Home tab and bring it down a little bit. So maybe kind of do that. I guess that'd be okay too. So I think maybe that looked better. That way the people know what they've got here. I could also go ahead and select all of these and make them just a little bit smaller to kind of match it in a way, all right? Let me do something like that. Well, we'll see how it goes as we go along here. And actually another thought would be maybe we feel we don't really need to have the total, for the row. So we can actually just go to this row, all right, or this column, right? Go back into our layout, right? And then go over here to the delete and tell it we want to delete the column and do something like that. Now, of course, when we do that, because that first row was merged, we lose it. So if I go back there and just hit undo and just say, you know what, we'll worry about this later on. But I think maybe we'll just keep it in there with that. Now on the side, I'm going to need to put in the airport codes. So I'm going to go to this cell like right there. A little tough to get to, but the other thing too you can do is you can go ahead and kind of zoom in even closer, so you get a little bit more. You can squeeze in there a little bit better because it's kind of expanded out there a little bit. Another thing I kind of noticed here too is this is kind of going off the edge there a little bit, so I'm just going to take this and kind of just pull it in like that and fix that. That was kind of bugging me. Anyway, so for this first one here, we're going to put in there ORD. And of course, you can see the problems we're having. So I'll tell you what we'll do here just to kind of make it easier. I'll go ahead and I'll make this wider. Go ahead and pull this one over as well. Pull that one over so we can see it at least, right? And then I'll go ahead and put the rest of them in. And there, with the magic of video, they're all typed in for you. So you don't have to sit through that drudgery. Now what I need to do is put in the numbers that we need. So I'll start with my first one here. I'll put the number 40 in there. And then I'll go ahead and get the rest in there for you without you having to sit through it. And then voila, there we are, the magic of video. We got all the numbers in there. Now, at this point then, what we might want to do is go in and do a little formatting using the table style. So we can actually go here to layout, or I'm sorry, design, and we've got our table styles in here, and I can click onto that, and I can kind of hover over this and find one that I like to have. Now, what I'm going to do here, so we can see this better, I'm going to kind of scroll down like that and then get a sense of what I have here. So I can go back now and do this and be able to see it maybe a little bit better as what I'm getting. So, you know, something like this, maybe the red or the orange, whatever. We got gold, blue. I think we'll go with the blue this time. So we'll click onto that. All right. And now, there we have it. Now, another thing I'd like to do is I would like to put the label top airports here and have it go, you know, sideways like we have these guys here, and have it go through all these merged cells here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start about right here and highlight or select that area there, right? Then I'm going to go back into layout and tell it that I want to merge those cells so there becomes one. And then while I'm in there, okay, I'm going to type in major, and I think maybe I'll capitalize it. So major airports, something like that. Now I'll go ahead and I'll make this a little bit wider so we can kind of see it there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around the way we did these guys here. So I just go back into layout, go over here to the text direction, and kind of flip that around, something like that. Now, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and make it perfectly centered. There we go. And then I can go ahead, let me just pull this down a little bit. And then I can go here and I can make that less wide. So you saw something like that. That's kind of a fancy way of doing the titling there. Now, for this next column here, we need to make sure that we got enough room here. So I'm going to kind of push a bunch of these guys over and get it so where eventually I get that to display. So that's good there. Now I'll just work on this one first. I'll select that. Now we'll go back and we'll make this centered and left aligned. We can do that, or we can make it centered, but because they're all a little bit different, it's going to look kind of wobbly, kind of curvy if we make it centered. So we'll just line up on the left side there. Now over here on this side, we're going to go ahead and put the totals in for each of these rows, right? So in this case, again, what we'll do is we'll go back into formula here, all right? We want to sum what's to the left, and we're going to go and find the format that we want. We're going to go with that format, but again, we're going to get rid of the 0.00. We don't need any decimal places in there, so we delete that out, right? And then hit OK, and there it is. And then I can go ahead and probably, get in there, make that a little bit wider so we can see it. So there we go. And actually, we're not going to need this to be formatted as dollars. So I'm going to go back into the formula here again, and I'm going to pick a different format here. We're just going to go with this one here, which is this straight, this number, really. It'll have a comma in it if it gets into the thousands, but I don't think it will. And then I'll go ahead and hit OK, and there we go. So now with the magic of video, I will put the rest of the formulas in there. You don't have to watch. Okay, and voila, there we go. So I put all those in there. Now, I have to get this kind of fixed up here a little bit. We need to kind of change the widths and all this. So now, first of all, I want to make sure I got this the way I want it to be. So I think right there, I think that's good. And I select that area there. Oop. Just to make sure, and I'll go ahead and center it, top and bottom, left and right. That looks good there. Now, I need to, within this parameter, I'm going to go ahead and pull this in just a little bit more as well. Oop, about right there. So between January and December, I need to make these columns exactly the same width on each month, but still only take up the space or the width that we have now. And if you remember how we did that, we had selected all of this kind of down like that, right? And we go back in there and tell it we want to distribute the columns in this case. So we click onto that, and there we go. Not bad. Now, what we'll do too is we're going to go ahead and make the table a little bit taller. So do that so we got a little bit more room in there. And there we go. All right. It looks like the numbers too. We need to get these guys perfectly centered there. There we go. And then we've got this. Now I'm thinking that this doesn't look too bad. The size that we had was 10 for these, and this one now is 9. So I'll just go ahead and select that and bring it up to 10. All right. So that's not bad. It looks good. And we don't really need all that height, so we can actually kind of pull this up like that, see? And we can probably take this guy here and go back to the layout and make that dead centered. And then we can also then make this less tall. Don't need that much room. There we go. And I'll go back to here again, see if I can squeeze it a little bit more. But I think that's about it. Now I'm also going to go and change the font size here because these are at 10 and these are at 12. So I'll go ahead and select this, all right? And go ahead and make that go down with it here. So there, that way it matches that. And I think these are also 12. And of course, everything else is 10. So we'll go back and take this whole thing and bring that down to, oh, we'll just go here and we'll pick it a 10 like that. All right. Now, it could be that you might say, well, these might look good at 10. All right. But then have these guys at 11. So we'll put those at 11. And just make them slightly, slightly bigger. So I'll make this also 11. There we go. And of course, having done that, it screws this up. So again, I'll go in here and I'll just make this a little bit taller. There we go. And I like the fact that I can do that without it infringing upon the rest of these and having to go through distributing them and all that stuff. So that's pretty good there. And I think maybe on this text up here for the title, we'll make that just a little bit bigger there and pull that down a little bit. There we go. And one little thing here, this guy is still off a little bit, so we need to make that basically centered like that. And I think, oh, these are off too, so let's just go back and reselect these, I guess, huh? So do that and get them all moved over a little bit. Okay. When you know you got the tools to make this look perfect, you sometimes become obsessed to get it just right. Now, another thing I can do too is for this last column here, let's go back onto the table here and then we'll go back over into the design. We can tell it that we want our last column to look a little bit different, using this style here. So we click on the last column and it does that for us. So that looks pretty good. That kind of makes it match up a bit more. Okay, one last thing here. I want to kind of give this kind of a framey kind of look to it. You know, it's just out there. I want to have like maybe a dark frame going around the whole thing. So what I can do is I can click onto the select all here. That kind of selects the whole table. Then I can go over into the borders here, click onto that, and tell it that I want to put an outside border. Now I can do that, all right? Or what I can do if I want to make, because that's kind of thin, what I can do is I can go down here to borders and shading, okay? I can go into the borders here, just like that, and go down to here, all right? And I can tell that I want to put, let's say, a thick, maybe a 3-point border. Pick the color. I'll make it kind of an off color here, a little gray. And if I do that, all right, and then I go ahead and hit OK on it, it's going to do all of that. So it's going to put the borders around everything, all right? Now, I don't want to have that. I really just wanted to have a frame going around it just like this, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to hit undo, all right? It's still selected, all right? I'll just kind of click away from it. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to get back on the table, go to my design area, and I'm going to actually draw a border or paint a border, all right? So I'm going to use this to paint with, but first of all, I have to select what I want for a size of border, you know, thickness and color and all that. So I definitely want to go with a solid line, so I'm going to leave that there. As far as the size goes, maybe 2 1/4, something like that. And then for the color, you know, I can go with gray, or I could go maybe with a different color altogether. Maybe go with a green or an orange here. Or maybe I'll just go with this lighter orange here. So I do that. Now, once I've done that, the paint or the border painter kind of turns on by itself. So now watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go right over here, and as I drag it down right on the edge here, I'm painting that, and I let go. There I go on that one. And then I can go over here and just kind of click it because that's just one solid piece there. Then I go about right here and drag that down like that. And then I can go ahead here and go across like that, all right? And then I can just either hit my escape key or actually, just hit the escape key, sorry about that. And then that turns it off, and then we're back to where we were. So that's pretty neat, all right? If you don't think that's thick enough, you can always go back in there again, and I'll just do it real quick here. Let's say we'll go back into the layout, design, and we'll change our thickness here from about maybe the 2 1/4 maybe to 3. And we're also going to pick a different pen color. I think we'll go with maybe with the red. That might be kind of cool. So that's already turned on. So I can just go back here again and drag it down like that. Click just up there, and I can just kind of drag down there, and then drag across for there. Then I can hit the escape key. That'll turn it off, and there we go. Now that looks pretty good. Then we'll go ahead maybe and get rid of this extra space here, so kind of backtrack it, but now it puts it right up against it. So I'm going to be on that paragraph. I'll go back to my paragraph here, and I'll say I want to put maybe 12 point of space before this paragraph that I'm on, see? Hit OK, and that pulls it down, and there we go. So there we have it. So wow, 24 minutes already. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, huh? All right, so this will conclude this video. We've got a couple more videos to come having to do with the tables and spreadsheets and all that. So hopefully this is going to be of some benefit as far as helping you put together your own tables. But pretty easy thing to do. Just if anything, it's just tedious, right? All right, well, I appreciate you watching. Take care.